Now I've got to do a freaking repair. You know, and this is the thing. These speakers, this is from the factory. This is the way it came from the factory. It's not even formed right. It's paper thin and it barely even fits. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Yep. It's a stamped basket. It's not even a cast basket. Well, you know what? It is. It's a cheap ass stamped basket. So I took the 7mm and I got on each one of those and tightened it. Every single one of those was loose. Not a one of them was secure with these speakers. The bass doesn't hand off to the mid-range in a very coherent manner. You can tell, hey, I'm listening to a woofer and there I'm listening to a mid-range. And the two don't appear to be seamlessly handing off to one another. You know, you know what I mean? It's like I'm listening to a woofer and there I'm listening to a mid-range and whoa, there I'm listening to a tweeter. There's no coherency. Number one, Klipsch engineers. Those binding post boards need to be reworked so that the binding posts never come loose. Number two, the spade lugs on the end of the wires that go to the tweeters and the mid-ranges need to be thicker and bolstered up. Need to be much thicker and much more robust, should never bend. Number three, the tweeter, forget that polyamide. Needs to be titanium or aluminum or some other material. Someone needs to listen to this damn thing. It's horrible. The tweeter needs to be completely reworked. The current tweeter's got to go. You cannot fix it by rejiggering the crossover. Number three, the crossover network needs to be reworked to fix the tonal imbalance of the speaker. Number 4 or 5, wherever I'm at, I would prefer a cast frame woofer at this price range. Seriously, what the hell were you thinking? That stamped cheap ass basket that I saw in there at this price range is ridiculous. That's an insult to the customer. So there you go. There's my Hey everybody, it's Stereo Police. And today I figured I would attempt to start and finish my review of the new Klipschorns. Right there. The Klipschorn, right in the corner where it ought to be. And by the way, you're not hearing them right now. You're hearing the JBLs in front of them because I do not have the Klipschorns hooked up yet. I just finished a video on the JBLs. Just finished up a video on these JBLs that you see on the speaker stands, so I was just listening to them and I received a couple of comments on why these big Klipschorns are just sitting there and people want me to review them, and I've made a couple of snide comments along the way about how much I don't like them. That's right, I don't like them. I've had them sitting there taking up space. They take up valuable real estate. And they've been sitting there for months. And I don't listen to them. I don't like them. And I figured today I will just give you the sort of the background as to why I have them and why I don't like them. And I struggled with how I was going to approach this video. You know, whether I was going to make it a multi-part series and how in-depth I was going to get. And I'm still not sure, honestly, how I'm going to approach it, but I figured I just get, the way I do all these videos is just start talking. And whatever comes out, comes out. That's how I do them all. So, let me get started by saying this. A quick background. The Klipschorn is the first. Well, let me say this. Let me pull this. There's probably going to be, with respect to this review, a lot of people, quite a few people watching this video who are not subscribers, who are new to my channel. So, and wondering why I'm giving these speakers a negative review. So let me just give you a very brief background about myself. And so you kind of know who I am. So let me get started with that. Okay, so to introduce myself, I believe I'm more of an equipment file than an audio file, but I really enjoy tinkering with things like such as rebuilding these JBLs. Not much of a rebuild, but I like finding old pieces of equipment and tinkering around with them, rebuilding them, fixing them, repairing them if need be. And been into analog lately, and today the system I'm operating, the system I'm rocking is the Technics SL1200. Love this turntable with a Sumiko Songbird cartridge, preamplified RIAA by a Croft vacuum tube phono preamplifier, running it into a Kronos Magnum 3 by Rogue Audio with Svetlana output tubes, KT88s. And right now I'm driving the JBLs that I just made a video about. And just playing albums that pick up at thrift stores and such, and trying to expand my musical horizons. You know, I'm a child of the late 70s, early 80s, so I was born and raised into the rock and roll era of the time, and I'm trying to really get into jazz and big band music of the 30s and 40s, and really really enjoying, and even some orchestrated music now, and I'm really kind of enjoying that. I'm just trying to, you know, learn that genre of music and really kind of enjoying it, and expanding the horizons, and it's really enjoyable. Anyway, more of an equipment file. I love equipment. I've got a lot of it. But let me tell you about my relationship with Klipsch, which becomes important with respect to this review. I love horn speakers. I love the sound of horn, compression driver horn combinations. I love the dynamics of them, the efficiency of them, the sensitivity, I should say, and I love the sound of that. I love their effortless, their lack of harmonic distortion, their effortless ability to reproduce the human voice, their ability to produce realistic, lifelike dynamics, and so on and so forth. And hence, I'm a big fan of Klipsch Heresy speakers. I own the Cornwall 3s, which I love. Those are my favorite speakers right now, Cornwall 3s. I own the Forte 3s by Klipsch. I also happen to own the, what are these, the RP600Ms, is that right? Yes, indeed, the RP600Ms. These are fun bookshelf speakers to toy around with. I've got a bunch of other speakers that I play around with. I purchased at shops and repair. I've got more equipment back there. I have a Klipsch subwoofer right here that I use with the RP600Ms as well as with these JBLs. What is this subwoofer? I just got this. I just made a video about this, but the subwoofer really kicks ass. The R112SW. Goes down to 24 hertz. It's got a 300 watt built-in amplifier. It does everything I need. As you can see, and all these speakers I've reviewed in the past, and I love them. I'm a big fan of Klipsch, especially their Heresy products. I love it when companies stay true to their original form. I realize they have to keep up with the market. Klipsch has their reference line. You know, they've got to make money, but I love it when they also stay true to their heritage, which Klipsch has attempted to do. Not many companies have done that. A lot of companies have sold out and basically have destroyed themselves. Polk Audio is one of them. They're dead to me. And many other speaker companies are, you know, even JBL to some degree is gone, although JBL synthesis is pretty cool. Altec, Lansing is dead, and so many other speakers, and even amplifier companies. Now, Macintosh has tried to stay true to form, which is good. I don't own any Mac equipment, but anyway, Klipsch is one of those rare companies that's, with their heritage line at least, has tried to stay true to form, and I respect that, and I own their products, and I like them. Now, all of these speakers have one thing in common with respect to me, and that is I heard them all before I purchased them. I was able to hear them in a showroom. And of course I heard them and they knocked my socks off, and I loved them and I bought them. Now, let's fast forward to the day that I purchased the, you know, and here's what I ought to do is I promised my subscribers I would start using, okay, here we go. Hang on just a second. I would start using a tripod more. I'm causing a lot of motion sickness out there, I realize that. I, for one, ought to be sensitive to that because I'm a vertigo patient myself. Okay, so moving right along to the day I purchased these. So I was in a shop, and I'm not going to mention the shop, not because they're bad guys or anything, but because they did me a real favor, which I'm not sure they were supposed to do. Not sure what their relationship is with Klipsch, but I was in a shop and I was purchasing some equipment from them, namely that Luxman, that beautiful Luxman Class A integrated amplifier right there. And I was just mentioning that Klipsch had a new Klipschorn, the AK6, and that I'd love to hear it one day or see it or maybe even buy it, but it was a little costly for me, and you know, one of the guys there said, well, we can get it for you, we're a Klipsch dealer. And I said, well, I don't see any Klipsch around your store. He goes, oh, we don't really stock it because we're more of a high-end store and we don't really consider that something we would stock, but we can get it. And I said, well, those things are like 15,000. I don't know what the price of retail was, but 14, 15, something like that, off the top of my head. And he goes, oh, no, we'd sell it to you for, and he gave me an astonishingly low number, like a third off of retail. And I'm not going to discuss numbers here. That's gauche, okay? But I'm just going to tell you, like a third off retail. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. I said, how the hell can you do that? Oh, we can do it. He goes, okay. I said, holy shit. You know, and just based on my relationship with my Klipsch speakers, I wasn't thinking that day. My head was spinning. I was like, you know, I should have thought it through, because, you know, never buy a speaker without hearing it. And the only caveat was these things are so huge. They come on pallets. And he goes, the only caveat is we can't take them back, you know. I mean, once you get them, you own them. There's no return policy. And I fully understood that. I respect that. And, you know, based on the size and price of these things, of course not. So just going solely off of my experience with the Fortes and the Cornwalls and other Klipsch speakers, I just went for it. I was like, oh, I can't go wrong. This is the flagship speaker from Klipsch. This is the corner horns. This is the Klipschorn. It's all new, right? You can't go wrong. So I ordered them. This is one of the, according to the Klipsch representative, these speakers here were some of the first ones to come off the factory floor. Some of the very first ones. It took like 3.5 weeks. They had to order them and they had to be made. They weren't even in the, they had to be made to order. So, anyway, fast forward, and I won't even tell you about the process of, I had a, because of circumstances, I could have had them delivered freight to my house, but I wasn't here, so I had to have them delivered freight to the store. They came on pallets, they were huge. So I had to rent a U-Haul and go to the store, and it was a whole, believe me, these things are monsters. You need another person there to help you, and you can't handle it alone. I won't even get into it. But they're absolute monsters. The shipping containers are built for one-time transport. You're not going to, you're not going to save the materials. Believe me, you're going to break them down and take them out, and you're not going to save the boxes. It's not going to happen. You're going to have a lot of trash left over. A lot of foam inserts and cardboard. And you're going to need a dolly and a lot of, and at least 2 people. Be very careful. Okay, now let me fast forward to getting them in here. Now Klipsch recommends that they're 17 feet apart at a minimum, and they are right here. They're center to center, they're 17 feet apart. And they're against the walls. There's a wall over there. Now this might not be the optimal room for a corner horn, but they're in the corners. The wall that's behind them, even though you see that foamy stuff because this is an unfinished basement, that is a concrete wall behind there. And despite the window over there, there's a wall there, and over to the left there's a wall there. There were 2x4. There's a carpet hanging there, but behind there's wood. I put wood up to finish that wall. There used to be 2x4s, but I put wood behind that carpet. Now, not optimal, but decent enough. Now, Klipsch also notes that they finished, now you can look this up online, that they finished the horn and to provide for ease of placement. And I'll explain what that means in a minute. I'm going to move these speakers and pull one of those JBLs off the tripod so I can show you around these K-horns and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we have the K-horn. They come in 2 sections. The top section that you see here can be completely lifted off and brought down, which I may do for you. And then the grill on the top section is removable, and it snaps in with magnets. These bunch of rare earth magnets right here all the way around, and it snaps right in. I'll just leave this off for the demo. Okay, now let me remove this from the tripod and try to do some one-handed work here. So the tweeter is all new, according to the website. This is the Klipsch AK6. So this is a new model. So the tweeter is a new tweeter. I don't know if the mid-range is considered to be new or not. And so there are grills on the side, and I'm going to remove them, and they're stuck on with magnets. You can see some of the magnets right there. And here's what the grill looks like on the inside. It's got a tapered front. And I am going to show you what all this stuff is right here in a minute. But by completing the horn, the old Klipsch horns didn't have this piece of wood right here on the back. It relied on the walls. to form this last piece of the horn. So it didn't have this chamber right here. And they did that to reduce the weight and size for shipping, I believe. So this piece of wood right here is new, so they call that completing the horn. It's the last bit of the horn. So that allows for the, according to Klipsch, that allows for more flexible placement. So instead of sticking these corner horns exactly in the corner and relying on the corner to complete the horn, you can kind of move these out to get them towed in a little bit better to back out to zero in that sweet spot. Otherwise, at 17 feet apart, if you were to take this corner horn right here, put it exactly in the corner like that, okay, and then come out, the sweet spot would be right here, and the other one would be right there. So I'd literally be sitting right here, you know, 2 feet from my turntable. There would be, the sweet spot would be like right 2 feet from the turntable. It would be ridiculously close. It just wouldn't work. So, you know, they've done us a favor by completing the back of the horn so that I could tow the speakers out a little bit to put the sweet spot a little bit further back into the room, if that makes any sense. So that's a good thing, I think. I hope. Now, the crossover networks, they were once up here. Here's the upper chamber right here. I need to get a flashlight. Let me get a flashlight to show you that. Okay, now I got a flashlight. I'll just see if I can see. You can't really see much on the tweeter. There's a screen there. And the diaphragm, can't really see it because there's a screen, but the diaphragm has been changed from, what was the old material? Oh gosh, it's that pull cue ball material. Yeah. Anyway, now it's a polyamide material. And then here is the mid-range, the throat of the mid-range horn, and there's a screen back there too. It's pretty deep. So not much to see, but those are the horns. Now let's go back into the upper chamber, and there's the compression driver for the mid-range. Looks like it's beautifully made. Okay, and then there's the tweeter. Again, it looks like it's beautifully made, well constructed. I have no problem with the construction. And with the K horns, the crossover used to sit back up in here, and they've moved the crossover now to be internal to the lower chamber. So here's what you have. And the flashlight here. So you have inputs right here. Hang on a second. Trying to get the flashlight here. Let me hit pause. Okay, sorry about that. My battery died mid-video last time, so I have no idea where it died, so I'm going to do a brief recap. And I went ahead and hooked this speaker up, the speaker that we were last discussing. I hooked it up the way it's supposed to be. So here you go. Okay, the tweeter and mid-range wires are running down through the holes, coming up, and there they are, properly hooked up to the binding posts. And the spade lugs are coming down, up, the tweeter on the right, the mid-range on the left. Here are the bi-wired inputs right there. So that's the way things ought to be. Now, let me go over to this side and show you what this is where I believe what I was discussing when the battery ran out, so I'm not sure what I got and what I didn't, so I might be repeating myself, but There were several quality flaws when I was hooking the speaker up initially. One quality flaw, some of these binding posts were so tight from the factory, I was just simply trying to loosen them and I couldn't do it. Okay, I was trying to loosen them and it was so hard when I loosened them, it loosened the entire binding post up from the inside. So the whole thing, look, you see what I mean? The whole thing started to turn, including the silver thing right there. So it's turning, it's literally rotating even on the inside. Look, the whole thing. That shouldn't happen. So the only way to fix it is to take this whole plate off and tighten the binding post from the inside. Ridiculous for a product of this price. Absurd. Stupid. Ridiculous. Another thing is these spade lugs are paper thin. Paper thin and bent from the factory. This one, this is from the factory. This is the way it came from the factory. It's not even formed right. It's paper thin and it barely even fits. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. It's so bent it barely even fits over the binding post. It barely, you got to push it. Look, like I'm trying to pull it up, and what from the factory it wouldn't fit, and I had to get a needle nose pliers and open that spade up to get it to fit over the binding post. It was bent. Look how thin that thing is. It's not even symmetrical. I mean, it's a piece of shit. I mean, this is ridiculous. Look at that thing. That's a ridiculous piece of crap quality spade for a speaker of this price. That's ridiculous. Somebody at Klipsch, I mean, also, I'm going to say this more than one time today. And you saw my speakers. Okay, I've given great reviews to Klipsch products. I own thousands of dollars of Klipsch products, and I've given great reviews of them. These two quality notes alone, okay, these binding posts, so tight from the factory that, look, the whole thing rotates even from the inside, right there. Look at it, the whole thing. Okay, that and then these paper thin bent from the factory spades. Someone ought to lose their head over this. Not, I mean, literally, figuratively. That's ridiculous. It should never have happened. Ever. I mean, I can see this in a prototype just to play around with, but this should never go out to a consumer. Ever. Ever. Not even on a piece of shit speaker, let alone a Klipschorn. Ever. Okay, this quality pisses me off. This would piss me off for a $500 speaker, let alone a a $14,000. Even though I got a good deal on it, it doesn't matter. It's a piece of crap. I shouldn't have to solder. I was considering resoldering my own one here, but that's junk. So we have two pieces of junk. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna get to the sound in a minute. I've got some things to say about the sound of this thing as well. I'm getting a little tired of kneeling here, so let me go ahead and get this hooked up properly, and we'll talk about the sound. As far as the quality of the wood and the craftsmanship, it's decent. The veneer is beautiful, all that stuff. I mean, it's typical Klipsch heresy quality, good stuff. Something is happening to the veneer right here, right there. I don't know, something is separating. I'm not quite sure what, I'm not a woodworker. I don't know what's going on there. I didn't set anything there. Nothing, nothing, no liquid, nothing hot. I don't know what's going on. Something's happening though. Maybe it's covered under warranty, but damn, how do you get these things back to Hope, Arkansas under warranty without getting a forklift and a freight truck, So, but go ahead and get these hooked up, and we'll talk about the sound. Be right back. Okay, had to go charge the battery again. Just made a couple videos yesterday, and my camcorder battery is... There's Jasper the audio dog. Right, Jasper? Yeah. A little enthusiasm might work. Yeah, I know. We'll go out in a little bit. We'll go out for a walk in just a little bit. We'll walk around. We'll walk around the property. We'll do the loop. Okay. So, here are the K horns, and I have them hooked up the way they're supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to look. And then there's that side. So the left and the right. Now what I want to show you, actually, I figured since I'm in here, since I have this cover open and I want to, I've got, well, you know what, I won't do that. I was going to remove this plate right here and show you how to fix these binding posts that spin. These spinning binding posts that came from the factory so tight. Okay, they were so tight from the factory, just simply the act of trying to loosen them up, they wouldn't loosen. They just started spinning, and it unloosened them from the rear of this plate. Pissed me off, thinking, my God, why on earth? Klipsch, why would you do that to a customer? Oh, I was going to show you how to fix that. Maybe I should do that. Probably the people watching this review don't give a crap. Okay, I'll wait on that. I'll tell you what, I'll make this review quick and we'll get right to the sound of it. Let me discuss the sound. I've been listening to them today. Oh, let me get a better, I'm just thinking out loud here. Again, I don't know how I want to approach this. We'll do a couple sound samples here. I'll put on some records. You can listen to them for yourself. I don't know that that'll really do anything for you. Really, these are speakers you really have to hear for yourself. They are very different, and I'm going to attempt to explain them to you. So just hang on a second. Let me think how I'm going to approach this. They're very difficult, they're very challenging to describe in words. And they have, and this is a seriously flawed product. This is the most seriously flawed speaker I have ever heard. Virtually at any price. There you go. I said it. Now let me explain to you why. I'm sorry, I hit pause, guys. I went over to recheck my connections. And look at this. I went over to recheck my. I just want to make sure everything is sure. I'm really neurotic about things. I wanted to make sure everything was tight, and then I pulled off the tweeter wire, and I wanted to make sure this was tight again. Now look at the tweeter positive right here. I can spin this right here all day long to the left and to the right. I can't even get it undone now. I can't even get this binding post undone to hook in the tweeter spade lug. There's nothing I do. I can't get it undone now. It just spins forever left and right. I mean, Jesus Christ. This is where I say I want someone's frickin' head. If Klipsch is watching this, not that I don't think they give a shit. I can't imagine. I'm sorry, Jasper. I upset the dog. The dog. See. Oh, I'm sorry. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable for a speaker of $100 speaker, let alone a $14,000. Look at this damn thing. It just rotates and rotates. Now I'm going to have to take this panel off right here. And they are Torx. They're not even Allen wrenches, they're Torx. So before I even get into, I'm going to go ahead and make this video about how to do this. Before I even get into how these things sound, now I've got to do a frickin' repair. You know, and this is the thing. These speakers, you know, okay, I'll put this on a tripod. This is the kind of thing that should never, ever, ever happen. Ever. I may have gotten a good deal on these speakers, but I still spent many, many thousands of dollars on them. And they sound like shit. I'll tell you why they do in a minute. I don't even listen to them. They just sit back here and I use them. Basically what I use them for is this right here. They hold albums. For me, they're a $12,000 album holder. You know? I mean, if this horn right here was a little flatter, I might be able to store screwdrivers in there or something. I wonder if I can store records. I wonder if I can store records in here. There's an idea. Okay, maybe these have a use. Maybe I feel better about my purchase now. Okay, before I tell you about how bad these things sound, I've got to do a repair. And and just out of interest, I'll film the repair here as I take that panel off and show you how to fix these things. You know, if I sound frustrated, I am. This should never ever happen, ever. Now it's one thing. It's one thing that I'm upset about how they sound, and that's why. You know, for you guys who've been leaving comments to me about, you know, you've been seeing these speakers lurking in the shadows for a while, not even, you know, lurking in the background for a while, you've been leaving comments, my subscribers, about, hey, when are you going to review? I've intentionally not reviewed them because I didn't want to get upset. I didn't want to get emotional. I didn't want to revisit these things. I almost wanted to forget that I purchased them. And here I am, my blood's boiling again, dealing with these things. And I'm going to review them. I'm going to give them a bad review. Now I won't even be able to sell them because I'm giving them a bad review. Because there's no other reviews on YouTube other than the propaganda that Klipsch is putting up about them. I haven't seen anyone else review them on YouTube. So this will probably be the only review. So when someone goes out to buy them, if I were to try to sell these things, they'll go to YouTube and they'll see my bad review and they won't buy them from me. But I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to put them up there anyway. I'm going to put this review up there anyway because I don't want anyone to get stuck with these things. And then I'm going to call Klipsch. I got to register these things. I'm going to call Klipsch and I'm going to tell them how bad these are. And I'm going to tell them they can come and bring the Klipsch truck, drive up here from Hope, Arkansas, and take them back. Give me something else. You don't give me money. Just give me something different. Give me a credit. But take these paperweights back, these boat anchors. I don't want them. Or I'll tell you what you can do. If the Klipsch engineers are listening, I'm going to tell you what you can do to fix them. How about that? Okay, I'll tell you what. After I fix this monstrosity of a crossover thing here, or these binding posts, then I'm going to tell you what's wrong with them, and I'm going to tell Klipsch what they can do to fix them. All right, how about that? Hang on a second. Okay. So, just like all my videos, you know, I tend to do one thing and they mutate into something else, and now what started out as a review has turned into a repair. So there's going to be those who come here for a review, and they're going to get all pissed off because it turned into a repair and tell me to get on with it, and well, I don't care. Because what the hell was the price of admission for this video? You guys, some of you guys, not all of you, my subscribers know me well, and you know all my flaws, and you know how I approach videos, and you know I talk too much and I get on tangents, but some of you guys, not you guys, but some commenters, you know, who leave comments like blah blah blah, you talk too much and all that. Well, you know what? Some of you guys just sit on your fat asses and do nothing and never make a video and just sit there, you know, when you're done doing nothing all day and watching someone else's hard work making a video, and that's all you got to say. You know, you sit there eating your Big Mac and fries and push a thumbs down button after someone puts in a lot of work on the video, and you got some snide ass comment. So I don't give a shit. I hope you don't like it. So there you go. You can see I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off because I have to do this right here. And then now that I've revisited, you know, revisited the speaker, and then right before I started this process, I was about to tell you about the sound of them, and I started listening to them again just to reacquaint myself with how much I hate them. And I got pissed off about how bad they sound, and I got to thinking about how much I spent and the effort to get them here, and I got pissed off about that. And just the whole damn thing. The reason I'm doing this method right here is I could have used a screwdriver, but when you get back into here, screwdriver doesn't fit, so I just stick a pliers back in there. Hang on, I hit pause. So you can see I'm pissed off. That's true. Okay, so here's what it is. Got it out. So behind the binding post, they're screwed in just like that. So down here, the one that keeps rotating, right at the very end, see what's happening? Look at that. See that? The never-ending rotating binding post. The perpetual motion machine. Compliments Klipsch. Thanks, Klipsch quality QA department. That's going to be hard to get to because this only pulls out a couple of inches. Like that, you see? So I'm going to get a tool in there and get that tightened up. Those are, yeah, I can pull those connectors apart, but okay, I'll go ahead and get that tightened up and shit. Pissed off. Alright, so you get the idea? You get the idea. I'll go ahead and get that fixed and get back to telling you about how awful these sound. Be right back. Okay, I just realized something before I fix these things. I realized you can get a peek at a bit of the top of the crossover and of the woofer and the woofer chamber. Just by, I'm going to use a flashlight and tilt this down and point it back in there. It's hard to do. There we go. Put the flashlight in there. Alright, there we go. Now, there's the top of the crossover right there, and there's the chamber, and then there's the woofer. Now, I don't have my glasses on, but it appears to me the woofer is a stamped basket. Yep, it's a stamped basket. It's not even a cast basket. Well, you know what? It is. It's a cheap-ass stamped basket. I would have expected a cast basket on that woofer. I would not. That's a shocker. If you watch my previous video on the JBL professional speaker and you saw me remove that woofer, it's a big, huge cast basket, a colossal basket on that woofer. Well, this right here looks like a thin piece of sheet metal that's been stamped. So that's a negative as far as I'm concerned. I had no idea. I would not have expected that. There's the chamber, there's the magnet, there's the top of the crossover. Another big negative. More negatives by the minute. Shocker. Okay, let me get back to repairing this. I would have expected at this price, again, a cast aluminum basket for the woofer. That's pretty sad. Anyway, be back in a minute. Okay, so here's what I ended up doing. I tightened every single binding post from the rear. So you'll see that the rear, every one of those has a little nut on there. And I took this guy right here. It is a, oh, I can't see without my close-up glasses. What the hell? It's a 7mm. So I took the 7mm and I got on each one of those and tightened it. Every single one of those was loose. Not a one of them was secure. And then with respect to the one back here that was so tight on the front, I couldn't get it loose. I had to get this guy on the front, and he is a oh, what is that? 13mm. So I'll loosen that one. So every single one, and now you can tighten them down and loosen them, you know, without fear of loosening the entire binding post from the rear. Every single one was loose. So I'm sure that other Klipschorn owners have experienced the same problem if it came in the factory that way. That's a defect. That's a quality defect from the factory. So I'm going to go ahead and get this back together. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, because I like it, despite the fact that I don't exactly like the sound of these speakers. I do like to know that everything is right with the equipment. So I'm going to go ahead and do that over here as well. Okay, I'm going to take a break from repairing the speakers and begin my review of the sound and kind of mix it up, because my knee's getting tired from kneeling down doing that repair job, but I'll get that done in a minute. So I'm going to do all this in one fell swoop. I'm not going to do a multi-part video, so I'm going to try to spit this out quickly. And I'm going to do this in 3 different ways. Number one, I'm going to tell you my impressions of the sound, and I'm going to try to do this succinctly. I'm not going to drag it out. I'm going to be quick about it. I'm going to put it into my own words. I'm not going to use techno-babble, audiophile techno-babble. No elitist bullshit. I'm just going to put it into my own words. And again, and then number two is I'm going to play back the Klipsch propaganda video on these speakers and give you my thoughts on what they have to say versus my observation. And number three, I'm going to read the stereophile review, which I have yet to read. I've been saving that for this review. I'm very curious to see what they have to say. I've skimmed it a little bit here and there. The beginning and a bit of the conclusions, but I haven't looked in depth at it, and I want to see if it meshes with my conclusions. And I've intentionally not read it because I'm really curious to see if I'm all wrong, if I have a defective product, or if they agree or we disagree, or what we, if we can, what we agree on, or maybe my room is all, I don't know. You know what I mean? I just want to see if we have any common ground. Because Stereophile is the only, I don't know if anyone else has reviewed these speakers. Anyway, I'm going to skim that and offer my observations on what they have to say as well. I don't even know which reviewer reviewed it. I've got to pull it online. I think I saw it online one time. I got to go get that. But anyway, let me begin with this. As soon as I hooked them up, and when I hooked them up, I was listening through this Yamaha AS1100 right there. Now, I have since, it's a wonderful amplifier. Those who know me, they know my videos, I've reviewed it and I love it. I've since listened to the Klipschorns through the AS1100. I've listened to it through the Luxman. I never can remember the model number of this thing. I apologize. It is the L590AX Class A Luxman. Wonderful piece. And I've listened to it through the Rogue Audio Kronos Magnum 3 with the Svetlana KT88s. And I've listened to it with digital sources, with my TAC NT503, with high-res files, with my own high-res files, also streaming Spotify, also playing lots of analog through my Technics turntable, as well as through my project turntable over there, Carbon Classic. So I did spend a lot of time listening initially to these Klipschorns, trying to get them to sound good, and I never succeeded. My initial observations remained the same, and they remain the same to this day. And when I did some listening today, before I broke these down to repair them, did some initial listening just to remind me of the attributes of these speakers. Before this review, it was all the same. Now, my initial observations and my observations today. Number one, let's go through bass, mid-range, and treble. Bass was virtually non-existent. Now, what I mean by okay, let me just say this relative to tonal balance. The tonal balance of these speakers is all wrong. All wrong from beginning to end. From high to low. It's all wrong. There's nothing right about it. The bass is shelved down relative to the mid-range and treble. It's almost like you were to, let me go over here to the Luxman, and it's like you were to take the tone controls, let me zoom in, this is the best way I can describe it. It's like you were to do this, right there. Except it gets worse than that. When I talk about the treble, it's almost like you were to do that. You were to turn the treble up and the bass down. And that's what you're listening to with everything flat in the system. That's what you're listening to with the Klipschorn. Okay, so the bass was shelved down and almost non-existent with every source I threw at it. And with every amp I threw at it. Nothing changed. The bass was shelved way the hell down. Now, it didn't matter. Let me back up. It didn't matter whether I initially had them placed in the corners, 17 feet apart. I initially had them truly in the corners, the way they're supposed to be, at 45-degree angles facing in. Exactly the way they're supposed to be, the original design intent, before I towed them out the way they are now. And that didn't seem to affect the bass hardly at all. The bass was crappy, towed in at 45 degrees the way they're supposed to be, and it's crappy now. Crappy is the best word I can, I don't know what else to say. Non-existent. Horrible. Unlistenable because of the tonal balance. So no bass at all. Now, moving on to the mid-range. The mid-range was good. Okay, the horn, the mid-range, if there's one shining star here, it's the mid-range horns. The mid-range compression driver horn combination seemed to be a wide range driver. Okay, it covered all of the mid-range and maybe some of the lower treble. It was warm and accurate, and it didn't have any horn-like characteristic to it. It did a great job. It seemed flat. It seemed low distortion. And it wasn't shrill in any way. I didn't sense any resonance, and it sounded great. It was dynamic. It had good presence. All those. I liked it, but that wasn't enough. It couldn't save the speaker. It just couldn't save it. Now, moving on to the treble, the new tweeter. The treble is, the new tweeter is, there's something wrong with it. It's the best I can say. I love the tweeters in the Forte is good. The Forte 3, the tweeter here in the Cornwall 3 is even better. I think they're titanium diaphragms. This tweeter, the diaphragm is polyamide. I don't know that I'm not it's I don't know. I won't comment on that, but it's a new tweeter and it is shrill at times. And again, back to the tonal balance, the tweeter, it appears to be stepped up relative to the mid-range, shelved up. Again, going back to the tone controls example, it's almost like you took the tweeter or the treble control and turned it up. So, to summarize, when I've never heard in my life any reasonably priced speaker, even a low priced speaker, but as tonally imbalanced as this speaker from top to bottom. The speaker is a train wreck when it comes to being tonally imbalanced. Number one, it's awful. And it makes the speaker unlistenable. I never, the reason I did so much listening, I kept equipment swapping and I just kept moving it, repositioning the toe in. I kept trying to get it to work. I even invented, I'll show you that in a minute, a crossover modification to try to get it to work, to try to get it to sound good. I tried everything, and the lack of bass, the shrill highs. Now, here's another thing about the tweeter. The tweeter is flawed. The tweeter is producing some kind of distortion, as far as I'm concerned, and it's a distortion that causes listener fatigue or listening fatigue. There's some kind of a shrillness, and I can't pinpoint it, but I know when comparing it to the Forte 3s, which is a nice smooth, you can listen to it for hours on end and nothing happens. No fatigue at all. You can only take so much of the Klipschorn, and it gets grating on you. It's too much. And there's a certain something in there, and I suspect, and I don't know what the frequency response curves look like. Maybe there's a certain peak or something somewhere. Or maybe there's a transient. There's something in there during transients that's causing some intermodulation. I don't know. I don't have the equipment to be able to test it. I'm not certain. Maybe it's happening in the crossover region. In the crossover between the, I can only speculate, right? But there's something in there that causes it. And anytime you get listening fatigue or listener fatigue, that's caused by distortion. Pure and simple. There's some kind of distortion that's happening. So, and it's in the treble region. That tweeter is unlistenable. That tweeter is, and it's both speakers, so that tweeter is fatally flawed by design. I speculate there's no crossover modification under the sun that can fix it. I think the tweeter is flawed by design. So, I told you earlier, now that's a long story short, so top to bottom, the tonal imbalance of the speaker, number one, and the distortion produced by the tweeter make the speaker unlistenable. It's horrible. I would listen to any speaker in this house over this thing. I would go take a $10 pair of speakers from a garage sale, and I'd listen to those over. And I don't mean to be dramatic. Okay, save the drama for your mama. I'm not trying to be that way. I'm being real. And you've seen my reviews of other Klipsch speakers. I'm a Klipsch fan. I own, high praise. I'm trying to tell you guys, if you're thinking about a pair of these things, you better hear them. These are my observations, and I own a pair. And I've tried to live with them. And they're absolutely horrible. They're flawed from beginning to end. And again, maybe I'm being a little dramatic, but I don't know which engineer or which product manager down there at Klipsch approved these things to leave Klipsch to be sold to the public. But that person shouldn't be working there, if that's the way their ears work. I mean, honest to God, these things should never have been sold. They should never have left the factory, ever. That's how bad they are. Ever. They're horrible. They're unlistenable. And I'm not ever going to, after today, I'm going to give you, I'll give you a sound sample. You're not going to be able to tell, but I'll do it anyway. I'm going to try to also, in a few minutes, give you some positives, if there are a few positives here, okay? I'm not going to try to give you all negatives, but I can't listen to music for more than a song or two on these speakers. I'm going to sum it up with that, because of those things I just mentioned. A song or two, and I'm fatigued completely by them. I want to listen to something else. These speakers have a sound of their own. Again, it's the tonal imbalance of them, and it's the tweeter, the fatally flawed tweeter. I can't listen to them. So, to fix them, the crossovers would need to be redesigned to fix the okay. Okay, here you are. Here's your sound bite to the Klipsch engineers. Number one, Klipsch engineers. Those binding post boards need to be reworked so that the binding posts never come loose. Number two, the spade lugs on the end of the wires that go to the tweeters in the mid-ranges need to be thicker and bolstered up. Need to be much thicker and much more robust, should never bend. Number three, the tweeter, forget that polyamide. Needs to be titanium or aluminum or some other material. Someone needs to listen to this damn thing. It's horrible. The tweeter needs to be completely reworked. The current tweeter's got to go. You cannot fix it by rejiggering the crossover. Number three, the crossover network needs to be reworked to fix the tonal imbalance of the speaker. Number four or five, wherever I'm at, I would prefer a cast frame woofer at this price range. Seriously, what the hell were you thinking? That stamped cheap ass basket that I saw in there at this price range is ridiculous. That's an insult to the customer. So there you go. There's my advice to the Klipsch people. I suspect they don't give a shit. Sorry, I'm cynical. Okay. Now, positives. Well, they do sound open and spacious. They do sound huge and big and abundant. You know, I don't know how to describe it. They sound huge. They make every other speaker, including the Cornwalls, sound diminutive and tiny. So when you know, the Cornwalls are wonderful. They're my favorite speaker, and I'm listening to them and I'm into them and all that, and I love them. And then when you switch over to the Klipschorns, all of a sudden it opens up a whole new dimension. It's pretty amazing what the Klipschorns do with this whole new dimension of sound. It's hard to describe. It's really, really hard to describe it. I'm kind of at a loss to describe it. You'd have to hear it. They're very spacious, but that's where it ends, and they're very detailed. I mean, I guess because of the tweeter is shelved up, there's a tremendous amount of high level, of low level, high energy detail in the treble. You know, I can hear lots of things going on there that I'm hard pressed to hear in the Cornwalls or the Fortes or anything else. But I think it's just because it's like going to my receiver and turning the treble up. I don't know. But that's about it. But what good is all that if I don't want to listen to more than 2 or 3 songs through these things because of fatigue? It doesn't get me anywhere. Okay. So there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish repairing these things and then take a quick look at what Klipsch has to say, give you my thoughts on that, and take a quick look at what Stereophile has to say and give you my thoughts on that, give you a sound sample and wrap things up. All right, guys. Hey, Stereo, please back. My apologies. I am actually. I was just sitting here putting the Klipsch back together, and I am going to make. Spur of the moment thing here. I am going to make a part 2 because the day's getting late, and and I'm a little fatigued, and I'll start to rush and do things I don't want to do, rush things along when I want to make a little more quality sound sample of these speakers. So because of that, I'm going to make a part 2. So I'm going to end this now and go over what Stereophile has to say and what Klipsch has to say, and then do a sound sample of these things on a part 2 when I'm fresh and not as annoyed as I am right now. So I think that would be better, and it would make for a higher quality video. So we'll end it now, and I'll be back for part 2, but I think I got my point across in part 1 anyway. So we'll see y'all back real soon. Thanks for watching. Hope this helped. Ciao. Oh yes, my apologies for saying that this is the end of the video when it's not. I do this all the time, but I forgot to mention before I close out of this part 1, is that I did also, in an attempt to straighten out the tonal imbalance of these speakers, invent these attenuators. And one attenuator goes between the positive output of the mid-range to the mid-range positive input, and one, the longer one here, and these are nothing but resistors, goes from the positive tweeter output to the tweeter wire to the actual tweeter. And they simply attenuated, one of them attenuated the mid-range down a little bit to try to equalize it to that of the woofer, and then the one for the tweeter attenuated the tweeter a little bit to try to equalize it to that of the mid-range, to try to bring the whole speaker into tonal balance. And it worked a little bit, and it kind of brought the speaker into tonal balance a little bit. So basically, I reduced the current to the mid-range, and I reduced the current even more to the tweeter. I don't have the schematic diagrams of the crossovers to these, so I don't know what effect that had, and I couldn't actually calculate anything, so I just started out with 5-watt resistors and experimented. I started out with 1 ohms and went from there. I forget how many ohms I ended up with. I think I ended up with 20 some ohms for the 24 ohms for the tweeter and 20 ohms for the mid-range, something like that. It was surprising what it took in line, in series with each. But that's here nor there. The point being, I did get the speaker a little bit more tonally balanced, but it still was unlistenable. That tweeter was still harsh. The characteristics of the tweeter are inherent. There's no getting rid of it. The tweeter was still harsh, and I still couldn't quite straighten out the overall tonal imbalance. And even when I go, oh, and there's one more thing I forgot to mention. This is why I came back. And despite all that, despite getting a slightly better tonal balance, there's still a coherency issue with these speakers. The bass doesn't hand off to the mid-range in a very coherent manner. You can tell, hey, I'm listening to a woofer, and there I'm listening to a mid-range. And the two don't appear to be seamlessly handing off to one another. You know, you know what I mean? It's like I'm listening to a woofer, and there I'm listening to a mid-range, and whoa, there I'm listening to a tweeter. There's no coherency. I feel like I'm listening to 3 different drivers, and I know I'm listening to 3 different drivers. You know, as opposed to the ultimate incoherency where I'm listening to a full range driver. But they have their own issues, right? But I don't know if it's an issue with the crossovers, but they weren't coherent in that way. I really felt like I was listening to 3 different drivers that were, you know, there and making their own little statements, but they weren't handing off to each other in a seamless manner. And even after I fixed the tonal balance issues a little bit with my resistors, it was still there. And again, that awful tweeter was still presenting its listener fatigue in its own way. So that, you know, nothing happened there. So I know I mentioned those little resistor things that I came up with earlier, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well, that they didn't do anything to help correct the issue. Okay, there. Sorry, that came to mind as I was wrapping things up. So, okay, I'll be back with part 2 to discuss a little bit more about the Klipsch a little later. Thanks for watching. Ciao.